Hello, everyone. I'm Tash, VP of Customer Growth at Hook. And today I'm interviewing the winner of Digital Champion of the Year from the US Customer Growth Awards, Dan Ennis. Dan, massive congratulations. I ask everyone this, but how did you feel winning the award?
Thank you, Tash. I appreciate the congratulations. And honestly, surprised in the moment. One of those things where you always kind of know there's a possibility when you're nominated for it, but you don't really expect it to happen. And that quick moment of surprise when the name was called was great. But it felt very, very honored for sure.
Nice. Well, I love to hear that. And did you have fun on the night itself?
It was a great event. Yeah, had a really good time. Really fun, both to catch up with folks in the community who I hadn't seen for a while, both getting to also celebrate everything else that people are doing in the industry, and then had one of my colleagues there as well. So it was great to get to kind of bring them into some of the broader events going on. So yeah, really great event. Good time celebrating with everyone.
Nice. Well, obviously, you won the Digital Champion of the Year, which is amazing. Maybe tell us all a little bit about your role and what you do right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So currently, I am the director of commercial customer success at Workato. But when I joined Workato, I actually was joined to specifically build and lead their scale customer success segment. So that's still a portion of my remit. And so I lead all of our commercial customer success for North America, which includes our global scale program. So in my role, what that means is because I come from a more scale background, even though I lead an org that includes a probably majority kind of traditional customer success motion as our primary remit, I bring a digital first mindset into a lot of those other practices as well, even into our more traditional high touch motion, in addition to still kind of overseeing the results and working with the leaders of our scale digital team. So it's a really fun kind of hybrid role where I get to apply some of my background and bias, if I'm honest, to some of these other components and aspects of customer success.
I think that's amazing because I think there are a lot of CS teams out there that could benefit from having more of a digital first mindset, no matter the book of business you're running. So it's great that you bring that for your organization and for your team. Tell me a little bit then from your perspective, what makes great digital CS teams? What makes great digital CS experiences for customers?
Yeah, so I think the first and foremost is, and I'm a broken record on this one, and I say it to folks all the time, and it's truly it's the understanding the strategy of what you want your digital component to accomplish before you invest in a single tool. I think it's easy to jump into tools that do flashy things, but if there's not a strategy first, like the tools should always serve your underlying strategy. So, for example, is the challenge that you run into? You've got great relationship management skills with your core CSMs, and you've got great stakeholder management and champion building, but you really struggle to get end user adoption because of the nature of your product, right? Where there's maybe hundreds or thousands of end users at the various companies that you work with. And so you need to find a way to engage them. So that's your strategy. Your strategy is around that. Understand the personas that you work with. Are you working with an industry where email is going to be the most effective, or leveraging even just something that we haven't had to in my current role, but I've talked with others where is it text that's the most important format, or fill in the
Right.
blank. And I think building that strategy, knowing your persona, and knowing what your customer's ideal journey is and what they would experience. And that's how you build that strategy. Because when you know what their ideal experience is, we find what most do, which I think is that customers prefer a digital first experience where, as a rule, customers don't want to have to reach out to a CSM, no matter how much they like working with their CSM and how good their CSM is. They don't want to have to reach out to someone, right? They want the break glass in case of emergency. So if you design first, almost a little bit with a B2C mindset, like I think is what is really crucial to helping design an effective digital customer success strategy.
I love that. And I really liked what you said about knowing your strategy first. What's the goal that you're trying to achieve and then building from there? You talked a little bit on the customer experience side about the important pieces, knowing your customer's preferred journey. How have you figured that out, either in this role or in roles in the past?
Absolutely. So I would say there's two components to that from my end. Number one is just talking to customers. Like it's not the most, it's funny you hear digital or scalable. You don't think of that, but honestly, just customer conversations is one. One of the things I had regularly done in the past is have conversations with customers unrelated to any escalations, just to hear how things are going, hear what they're missing, hear what they're wanting to do. And I think that that's something that leads to really positive outcomes and learnings on what their expectation is, and you can understand there better than any survey, honestly, where there's a gap between what they expect to experience and what they're actually experiencing when they're using the product and what their pain points are. So talking to customers directly as well as talking with your product team, honestly, I think understanding from their perspective as they're designing the product, what's the flow that they expect someone to walk through, not just
Mm,
what does it do? What is the flow they expect someone to actually walk through as they engage with that? And then you can understand where you can augment with a digital strategy. Because I always joke, and this is something I get from, I've talked with Dave Jackson in particular about, he's out of the UK as well, actually,
yeah.
funny enough. We've talked about how a lot of times the best digital CS strategy, honestly, is just a really well functioning product. Like,
Mm. I love that. And I also love what you said a little bit earlier that customers want and expect a digital customer success experience. They don't always want to speak to your CSM. Now, I know that not every CSM, not every CS team is ready to hear that. I'm sure your team have embraced that because you've come from that background and they must hear that from you every day. But maybe talk to us a little bit about the like change management from a CSM's perspective around how to embrace digital CS, even if you own a book of business.
absolutely. So it's one of the things that's helpful from a change management perspective is when talking to your TSM team, and depending on the kind of their mindset, asking really one of two questions, and it's either what are the things that really require you to do, like what are the things that we can't do in other means, because that's where we want to maximize your time on the things that only you, like as a CSM, can do, right?
Yep.
But a second one is like, what are the aspects that you most enjoy getting to do, right? Because that's why there's the digital first mindset is getting our people into positions where they are able to maximize doing what only like a human can do, what only they can bring to the table. And a
Right.
lot of times that's things like bringing a consultative mindset, like bringing to bear with a customer a strategy question, having a specific POV when they're talking with a
Mm.
customer about what they should do next, what they should be thinking about. Those kinds of conversations and discovery, at least not yet. We don't have at the digital level, and so I think that like that's the kind of perspective of helping our teams think through embracing a digital first strategy lets you do more of the part of the job that you actually most enjoy.
I love that. What about if they're hesitant on how to position this to their customers? I used to face this all the time, even as a CSM, when I was trying to coach peers on how you can be more scaled but still add value. Do you talk to your team at all around like positioning this to customers and how to like sell or pitch the fact that a digital experience is part of your offering at Workato?
Absolutely. So when talking the pitch side of it, a lot of it's about telling customers that this is the quickest and most effective way for you to get what you need. And honestly, talking about that
Right.
framing consistently and
Yeah.
coming back to it, because there's the learning curve with customers as well. And when they go into kind of old habits of reaching out to somebody, the default action is to, okay, I'll just answer the thing. I'll jump in and I'll do
Yeah.
what they're reaching out about, as opposed to re-getting them into the flow so they can experience that, because it's the pitch and the, "Hey, can you trust me? Like, let's try
Yes.
this together." And when
Yep.
doing that, you create an experience for customers, you knock on wood, if you set it up right, they're gonna get the experience that you're describing, and they'll get to have that. And I think we intuitively experience that sometimes. One way to think about it is, where CSMs might not be thinking about how to talk about that yet when it comes to digital first experiences.
Mm.
A very common one that CSMs do have to be used to that with is when they're dealing with customers reaching out to them about support questions.
Yeah.
It's the tale as old as time. A CSM will get a customer reaching out to them about support, and they know they've got two choices here. They can either loop the customer into the support flow or answer the support question. And they know Most
Mm,
CSM teams know that the best action they can take is get them into that support flow with, with the exception of all the necessary asterisks for, escalations and blah, blah, blah.
escalations, yeah.
But they know that the best thing they can do for that customer is get them into that support flow so that they know and trust, okay, I should go to the support process rather than go to my CSM for this. It's the same thing with whatever your digital strategy is, where your first reaction might be, okay, let me provide what they're looking for. It's let me actually get them into that flow so they can experientially like understand and learn that this really is the best experience for them.
I think some of this as well, the positioning comes back down to your customers, you understanding the value that your customer's trying to drive to, and knowing that you're speaking to the right people that are going to help you get there. Because then it helps you position yourself in a way that's like, I want to spend time with you on these three things because they're the things that are going to help me get you to this insert value statement here. And so, what that means is, I'm going to leverage this and this and this to get these types of information to you, or I'm going to ask you to go to these places. But I think oftentimes, if we haven't got that level of relationship that says, I'm going to spend time with you on these things because that's going to help you get to this value, or if we don't know what that value is, it makes it hard to have that conversation with a customer because you're not differentiating between the activities that get them somewhere and the ones that aren't.
Exactly. And I think that that's where the human side still comes into play is if you
Yeah.
know what's most valuable for your customer, you're providing that consultative prescriptive approach of this is what will get you where you need to go.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so if there's a CSM listening and they own a book of business, they haven't been doing any kind of like scaled or digital approach in their book of business, have you got a starting point? Like, what's the easiest place to start to test this to see if it works? To your point, like take away the things that they don't want to be doing so they can focus on the things that they do want to be doing.
Absolutely. So it's a step before maybe digital, and it's more scalable one to many to start on something. Because when it thinking where a CSM can come in, and then what I've found as an individual CSM, like what can
Mm,
often be most helpful is starting with a one to many, even though hosting their own office hours. Like, what is the most common type of meeting that they're having with customers, and host an office hours for multiple of their customers, and that more comes across as like a scalable program more than like a digital component. But the
yeah,
thing is, if you do that well, you can repurpose and repackage that. Funny enough, kind of like this conversation where we're going to be able to use it in multiple different ways. You can then turn that into digital content that you're using for your customers. And in a similar vein, what's a common type of thing I'm constantly having to walk my customers through that's just, it's not at all what I want to be regularly walking them through. There's so many tools you can use to create something, like whether it's more modern AI tools or even something like just really traditional video recording tools to
yeah,
allow you to create content around that that you can then send out to your customers that lets you walk through that proactively. And taking that step back and looking at what are the things I'm most commonly having to tell people reactively that I can proactively get in front of them if I were to use something digitally so that I could talk with them about the things that are most important to talk about, or what are
yeah,
those
nice.
kinds of things. And then, again, that's where you're starting with the goal and the strategy first. You're starting with what is that? And then you can look at, okay, what tools do we have already? Because if you're an individual CSM, right, you want to look at what your existing tech stack is because you're probably not going to get the budget for something brand new right away.
Yeah,
And understanding how you can maximize that tech right away to accomplish that. Um, and don't overlook the value of just templatizing as much as you can.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that those are all like as an individual contributor, as an IC, like you're saying, those are some of the biggest things I think you can do that would make a big difference.
I used to, and this is, I mean, going back some years now, but I used to send like a templated email to my customers every 2 weeks. And it was like, here's the product updates you need to know. Here's the events that are coming. Here's a top tip from me. And it was like one email that I could just repurpose and send to every customer in a really scalable way and to all of my key stakeholders. And to your point around the having to send like the same email or the same message to everybody, it was just like such a simple way of getting content in their hands, but also it being a really light lift for me. And they knew to expect it. They knew it was going to be that same type of content and to look for it. And so I think to your point, like you don't have to go wild with your first step. There's a lot of little things that you can do to begin with.
I love that. I think that that is, yes, and I think that's a fantastic way. So creating your own kind of mini micro newsletter, like you're saying,
Yeah.
or what content that is extremely helpful.
Yeah. Love it. Well, interestingly, the skills of digital CS are actually quite popular and in demand right now. I think whether you're a CSM or whether you're a leader, businesses are looking to see, how do you scale? How are you smart with your time? Have you operated in a digital format before? And so I'm sure there'll be some folks listening thinking, okay, how do I dip my toe into this world? Have you got any advice for people in terms of how they can brush up their skills aside from maybe just giving it a go? Or any forums or communities that you would recommend people to go and be a part of to learn how other people are doing this?
Yeah, so there are two kind of ways I would, especially for leaders, I would say. For ICs in general, I would say just brushing up on everybody is putting out content right now around how to leverage AI tools and prompting to more effectively
Right.
do your job. So
Yep.
really, like I don't think we've coalesced as an industry yet around what's the best practice, what's the gold standard one to go to yet. Like I don't think we're
Yeah.
at that point. But so that might sound like why there's, an embarrassment of riches, but the good news of that is you can't go wrong. Like you really can't. So start with like learning the tools, and if you want to understand which one's the best, like start with what you have access to, and then going to their academy and maximizing. Like, how would you go about it if you were a power user of any of the existing tools you have? So that's kind of one way to proactively like brush up on the specific skills piece. But a big shout out to Marie Lunny. We talk about communities. She runs a Slack community for digital CS. I think it's a little more geared towards leaders. ICs might find it a little harder to get as much value out of it, but a little more for
Mm.
leaders. Great community where people bounce ideas off each other, share, collaborate, highlight best practices, what's working, what's not. And I think that that's just an incredible one. So you'd want to reach out to Marie Lunny about that, her digital CS Slack community.
Nice. Thanks, Dan. Well, you've been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit of insight with the community. And massive congratulations again for winning Digital Champion of the Year this year. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Tash. I have an amazing rest of your day, and thanks for hosting all these conversations.